Alright, so the second topic that we talked about for us was WPS and retaining talent. And the idea was that we started off by saying that WPS has been attempted in the past, and so we kind of called it WPS 2.0 because the first one didn't really go anywhere. And part of why and how we started talking about this was that right now, the funding that is available, it comes in the form of inflation. Inflation is at 1%, that's accessible right now, and most of it is being given out in forms of dividends. And so there's very little funds that are now, very little, if not any funds that are going out in terms of long-term projects and in terms of value creation in that sense. It's all coming in terms of dividends right now. And so how would we unlock potentially funds that without attacking this, how do we unlock extra funds, basically? So that was the idea of the WPS. And one of the things that we talked about was how part of the issue, and one of the risks with WPS and why it got stopped the first time around, how we got to kind of 2.0 right now, was we need to somewhat ensure that the waste being created, because there will be waste, will be less than value. One of the reasons why WPS 1.0 did not work out that we all agreed on was because there was a focus on creating no waste. That's impossible. You're going to have waste. It will not be a 100% efficient system. But what we need to do is to have a risk profile where we have lower risk, higher impact. And so we cannot necessarily control the amount of waste, but we can reduce the amount of waste by controlling the risk. And risk is something that we can manage in a certain way. And then we talked about the different types of funding solutions for a system like WPS. The first one that was mentioned was somewhat of a DAO type situation where there would be donations. But one of the concerns that we have with that, or issues or challenges that we could find with that was, is that sustainable? So donations will only get you so far. At some point, you can keep on receiving donations, but really, is that sustainable if we want to create something that's long-term and that's sustainable in the future? Maybe not, but it is one funding method. Another funding method that was brought up was EOS.io.names. Currently has, and we were supposed to get the number, we didn't get it, 1.9 million EOS into it, and the other one would be EOS.io Savings, which has 18 million, give or take, EOS into it right now. And then we talked about, though, what are the issues with that? And kind of what are the challenges to actually accessing these funds. One of the issues being you need 15 out of 21. And what we talked about, the 15 out of 21, is not necessarily just the 15 out of 21, but it's the token holders backing those 15 out of 21. And so even though the block producer itself might agree, if the token holders supporting them in the backend don't, then that's an issue, or that's a challenge for accessing these funds. And the next idea for accessing funds would be somewhat of a solution where either the top 21 themselves allocate 1% of their funding into a particular pool, let's say a new account, something like that, and each of them did this on a daily basis. That would effectively add 1% of their 1%, but it would add a certain good amount of EOS into a pool that could be used for 21. Part of the issue with that is that you require 21 out of 21 and ongoing. If any of them don't do it, again, you go back to somewhat of a donation thing, right? If any of them don't agree, then this kind of whole model breaks down. But those were the three pools of funds that we thought we could potentially have at the disposal should something be created. What are the challenges with this? FUD. So a lot of FUD within the community was brought up. We went through this last time, and part of the idea was some people believe that it's too high of a risk. As soon as you mention the word inflation, it opens up a whole can of worms. Approval. We need approval from the players that are currently in ranking to unlock those funds. Potentially minus EV. So you might have more waste than you have value. Politics. What if you unlock funds and they only go to certain people, and or the politics of even approving such a system? The SEC was mentioned as well in terms of centralized entity allocating funds. What if you create an entity, or even the block producers themselves, if they were to be giving funds, could that potentially involve the SEC somehow and create risks? Although that risk has been lowered a couple of weeks ago. The risk again of waste being greater than the value that's output. The accountability as well. So if you're assigning funds to people, how can you ensure that they're accountable? And the experience. So the people allocating the funds, are they really experienced fund managers? And the last one, facilitation of a civil attack. potentially allocating funds could increase. I guess the people in power could potentially just start blocking it themselves. Thank you.